as guys, as we ran through certain magazines that he enjoyed looking at, we would sometimes compare the various models and we'll take a pic and then we'll try to say, well, I can guess which one you like versus which one he would like. He also always ended up with the thinnest girl, but eventually we figured out in discussion that he liked very, very anorexic women. And as I stated in my book, if you show him a woman who looked like a bone, that was a great looking gal. But then he will ask for her to be half the size of that bone to be even better. We laughed about that a lot. But Michael Jackson, I think you have to go back and in the book, you will see that he states that he never had the severity of insomnia as when he was under the pressure preparing for a tour or while he was on the tour. Before that, I think he had some sleep issues where he would use over the counter or just regularly prescribed medication as needed. But whenever he wasn't getting ready for a concert tour or was on the tour, it was near impossible to go to sleep. And over the years, he was assisted by physicians. Well, I think if you look back at in retrospect, and Michael Jackson was using propofol for decades, but many doctors that worked with him were anesthesiologists. And if you look back at the history or look back at other things, you will probably find that's the case. I was not aware of that until we were investigating the case leading up to a trial. And then all of the information came to me after the fact. One of the things that I learned, not just propofol, because propofol is not addictive, it is not a dependent agent, and it is not a street drug. It has no value. Nobody would pay for that. The drug that he was an opioid, similar to what took the life of Prince. I think Prince was using fentanyl and other substances. Michael Jackson was injected 51 times in the last 60 days of his life by Dr. Arnold Klein with Demerol. Michael Jackson apparently loved Demerol so much that he made a song called Morphine. And you can see the words of morphine, how it relates to the Demerol. He was not using that pain medication because he was having pain. There was some history that one discussed in the past about Michael having had an injury with a Pepsi commercial, and that may have left him suffering. Well, initially, I'm sure he had to be treated. Was that the inception for the addiction? I do not know. But for the 3.5 years that Michael and I were friends, he never complained to me that he was having pain in his scalp or any kind of pain requiring that type of therapy. Now, if you look at the court records, Dr. Arnold Klein was barred from coming to trial by the judge, Michael Pastor. He barred everyone from Arnold Klein's office to testify. But they allowed one thing. They did allow partial medical records to come in of the doctor. And as you look at the doctor, there you will see that the 51 times in the last 60 days were part of his medical records, and it shows the doses. At times, Michael Jackson was receiving upwards of 975 milligrams of Demerol per day, combined with midazolam, which is another drug called Versed. I like to put that into perspective. And let's say in Manhattan today, somebody went into one of the emergency rooms from a motor vehicle accident. There was broken bones or something like that. A doctor can definitely put that patient's pain to rest by simply giving 50 milligrams of Demerol. The range is from 50 to 75, and the patient's pain will be gone, the patient will be asleep and not even realize they were in an accident. So to take 975 milligrams of that medication shows a huge tolerance. That is where his dependency was. That is his addiction. But he kept this totally clandestine. I told Michael Jackson that I did not want you using the substance. I didn't care how many decades you've used it before. When he showed me his stash at home in his red and white sporting bag, the zippers could not even close with bottles. When I asked him, how do you get all that stuff? Jokingly, Michael, if I told you, Conrad, I would have to kill you, But he was well stocked. with propofol. There was another doctor or a nurse practitioner who was actually giving Michael IVs. Before I first came, drawing him on a regular basis, Dr. Sherilyn Lee. She's a nurse practitioner, but she goes around Los Angeles saying that she's a doctor. I tried to get her records. I tried to see what she was doing for Michael, but he never allowed it. I never could get to Miss Lee. I think what was happening to Michael, he was going in and out of acute withdrawal. This is why one day he called a doctor he had once fired when I was not present, and described that he was having hot and cold sensation in different parts of his body. Those were signs of demerol withdrawal. You can see that. But the night that it was almost near impossible, when you saw Michael, like he was steadily engaged in movement, like the hamster on the wheel, where he morphed into so many different forms, and the stress lines you can see, it was almost impossible. He was pleading for sleep. It was 48 to 72 hours after he was cut off from getting demerol. And I do not know who read him the riot act, but it is said that AAG told him that he had to stop. They may have been the ones who were paying his bill. When he died, he left $100,000 worth of bills for cash payments to a pharmacy called Mickey Finn in Beverly Hills, downstairs the office of Arnold Klein. Once he was cut off, he then did not, the substance was no longer in his body, and the metabolites also were gone. So Michael Jackson was an acute, full-blown withdrawal unbeknownst to me. What he needed was demerol, and I think the withdrawal state made him a desperate man, and he may have misjudged the risk that he would have taken in my absence, and that is what I believe caused his demise.